Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the JD Rucker Show. If you are watching the evening show, which starts at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, then awesome. If you're watching the daytime show, which starts at various times depending on what's happening in the news, then that's awesome as well. But either way, you should find me wherever you want to find me, whatever platforms you use, Rumble, X, YouTube, BitChute, all the various networks, all the various areas where the show's broadcast. You can find all those, plus my websites, plus my socials, and even my sponsors. You can go to jdrucker.com/find, jdrucker.com/find. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America. You're listening to the JD Rucker Show. Let's begin. Hello, friends. Welcome to another episode of the JD Rucker Show. Apologies, and more apologies up front for not having a show the last couple of days, and apologies again, not really having much of a show today. Will probably be 20, 30 minutes. I needed to get it out there because I have gone 2 days without doing a show, and I didn't want people to think that I'm already getting emails saying, "What happened? Are you alive?" I am alive. I have not been kidnapped. I am not being held hostage by any of the Tesla terrorists or anything like that. It's all good. I've had, and I appreciate the questions. We're in the process right now of taking the show, and I had noted this last week. We're in the process right now of establishing the show on a new network. And wherever you're watching now, don't worry. You don't have to, nothing's going to change. You're still going to be able to see me exactly where you're seeing me right now. That's not going to be any different. But we are trying to get established on a different network. And there are currently two that are, that we're trying to see which one is the best fit. As a result, I have been on more phone calls the last 3 days than I have ever been on in my life. And keep in mind, I used to do things where I had to be on the phone all day. I remember, I use a handy dandy Bluetooth, and my Bluetooth used to go out because, even with a 7-hour charge, I would be using it. That's nothing compared to what the last 3 days, it's been a whirlwind. It's been waking up out here in California, sometimes having to wake up at 3:30 in the morning to get ready for a call that's in East Coast morning time. But it's good. All this is good. So, again, my apologies for missing 2 shows and then basically only doing not even a half show today. It's going to be, I stayed up overnight. So if I look a little tired, it's because I'm very tired. But yeah, I did a couple of segments, got them all prepped, thinking, okay, I'll be able to squeeze them in today and be able to do a show. And that didn't come. There was never an opening. So right now I have approximately 24 minutes until my next meeting. And in those 24 minutes, I thought, by golly, I've got to reach out. I got to tell my wonderful, amazing, brilliant, and super ultra patriotic audience where I've been, and not to worry, I haven't been kidnapped by Tesla terrorists or anything like that. Has been a big news. And oh my gosh, talk about missing it. I wish that I would have been live when we were, during the elections on Tuesday. We had those big elections in Florida and Wisconsin. I had a whole bunch to say about that and didn't have the time to be able to go live. And then Wednesday with Liberation Day, didn't have the time to go live then. So it has been a very good and beneficial couple of days, but it's also unfortunately meant that I haven't been able to do my show. Lord willing, we will get all of this squared away, and I will be brand spanking new on a new network on top of everywhere else that you're watching me today. I'll be on a new network I'm hoping next week. That's one of the reasons that we have been scrambling to, with all of these meetings with various advertisers as well. Still promoting all the wonderful sponsors that we have, just not able to necessarily do it. We also, by the way, in the meantime, while all this is going on, I've been making a very drastic change to my websites, AmericaFirstReport.com, as well as DiscernReport.com. Don't worry about Liberty Daily. The LibertyDaily.com is not changing at all. But my other two sites that have been aggregators up until now, we're switching. We're moving away from the aggregation idea. The notion was this. Look, I've got to read through 1,500 to 2,500 headlines every day anyway. We're already posting them up at thelibertydaily.com. If I'm doing 150 articles over there, what if I did 50 of those articles, more, a more compact, a more focused version of the Liberty Daily, doing that over at AmericaFirstReport.com as well as DiscernReport.com. It just became too much of a hassle. It really has. And so we've decided, let's just get our writers to continue to write and turn these into more direct news channels. I think it's funny. You'll actually see down in the new scrolling thing, down the lower thirds, if you're watching, it'll still say, for example, at one point it'll say DiscernReport.com is a conservative news aggregator. Well, it's not anymore. As of a couple of days ago, it is no longer a conservative news aggregator. It's just conservative news, conservative and Christian and culturally patriotic news. But we're not going to be doing the aggregation anymore. That's all going to stay focused at thelibertydaily.com, which, look, we're getting 12 million hits a month at thelibertydaily.com. What's the point of building another aggregator, right? We are also going to be focused. If you look down now, you'll see discern.tv. That is the reason, to be clear, why we're making the switch at America First Report and DiscernReport.com from aggregator to more traditional, not traditional as in like legacy, but traditional style news site, is because we really want to focus on getting Discern.tv up and going, pushing out as much conservative content from excellent show hosts as possible, trying to work with various show hosts and to make that happen. So again, all super good news, but as a result, here we are. I had to skip 2 entire shows, and it was killing me yesterday. I'm sitting there thinking to myself, oh my gosh, it's coming to showtime. Can I just do it live? Will that hurt, because I hadn't been looking at the stories. I was on the phone the entire day, hadn't been looking at stories, hadn't been staying on top of the news. I knew about Liberation Day. I knew some of the responses to that, but could I really do a 9 p.m. show? And I almost did, but then at the last minute decided, you know what? It won't be a good enough show. I would rather skip the Wednesday night show and tell everybody Thursday night that I'm sorry, express my apologies. And then Thursday has been crazy as well. So now, as a result, you all are getting a shortened version of the show. Exciting things coming. Exciting. But with that said, I was only able to put together two segments for today. And so I don't remember. I don't think they're very long either. So the show is already probably almost over, unfortunately. With that said, let's go ahead and get to those 2 segments. And then after they play, I will come back and wrap it up with y'all. But again, get ready. Great things are coming. The best way to stay on top of those great things is to subscribe if you have not already, to thumbs up this video so that other people can know, hey, I haven't disappeared. I'm not gone. I'm still here. Just had a couple of days of phone heavy stuff. So let's get to those. Let's get to those 2 segments, and then I'll be back. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick highlighted by far the biggest need, the biggest advantage, the biggest benefit of President Trump's tariffs. And unfortunately, he only had enough time to barely highlight it, but I'm glad that he started to. And this is a conversation that needs to be had. I'll explain beyond what he says, but I want you to listen. Let's start off with Lutnick himself.
They're going to want to negotiate, but these are the same people who have been ripping us off for all these years. Remember, the tariffs are only part of the issue. It's these non-tariff trade barriers where they just won't let you trade. They provide subsidies back, like they charge this VAT tax, right? And they always say, oh, it's not the VAT tax. You know what some of these countries do? They take that 20% tax and they give it back to their producers. So they crush our people. It's got to end, and what's going to happen is you're going to see the greatest renaissance of manufacturing in America. $4 trillion investing in America. That's going to create the most incredible set of jobs. Tradecraft is going to come back to America. People, a high school educated workforce is going to get trained to do robot mechanic, HVAC, but in high tech, fabs for semiconductors. I mean, the coolest jobs, the highest paying jobs, they're all coming to America, and Donald Trump is bringing them in because we're tired of having them built in Taiwan. We're tired of having it built in South Korea. It's time for these things to be built in America, and these jobs are coming home.
Again, I wish that he had gone beyond just highlighting it. I wish that he had really gone in depth, and I wish that the Trump administration would do this too, because we keep thinking along the lines, and it's not just legacy media, it's not just even conservative media, it's also even the White House itself. When we think manufacturing is coming back to America, we think like steel workers, auto workers, stuff like that. What Lutnick highlighted there, this is a turning point for the United States of America. He's talking about a renaissance of jobs, a renaissance of new jobs, new types of jobs. Now, we've seen this before. We saw this with, for example, the semiconductor boom, the need for computers to start filling every business, every manufacturing plant, every household, and we were behind. We decided, you know what? We're just going to, it's a big deal, but it's not a big enough deal for us to spend the money and go through the hassle of building it here. So we'll just outsource it to Taiwan or South Korea. And as a result, this multi-billion dollar industry, $1 trillion industry is outsourced completely, entirely outsourced. About 99% of semiconductors, especially for the AI field, the burgeoning AI field, are produced elsewhere. We could have and should have been producing it here. That was one renaissance, and we missed it. The next renaissance, which we're in the process of seeing today, are these advanced technologies, talking about like robot mechanics. I think that was almost like a chuckle line, but that's a reality. That is a reality. Like it or not, whether you and I are going to sit back and we're going to be against the advancements of robots in everyday life, the advancements of artificial intelligence in everyday life, I know that I'm against it. But me being against it or you being against it isn't going to stop it. And those jobs are going to be created. They're being created right now. But they're not going to be created in the United States of America unless we force the issue, and the only way to force the issue is through President Trump's tariffs. We need innovation. We need investments from other countries into here, not the other way around. Okay? Not the other way around. We don't need to be sending our money and our everything overseas so that somebody else can have the job, so that somebody else can make the profits. We need to make the profits here in the United States of America. We need to get the jobs here in the United States of America. And I'm so glad that he highlighted that we're talking about even people with high school diplomas. Okay? Look, in the past, and not the distant past, we're talking about like the current day and not very far back. When we're thinking about manufacturing jobs, again, we're thinking about steel workers or dock workers or auto manufacturers, right? Well, today's kids that are playing Monster Hunter Wilds or any of the various games, those kids are not going to be your average automotive assembly line person. As a matter of fact, we're not going to need, here in 5 to 10 years, we're not going to need nearly as many of those. Even as the industry itself grows, it's becoming more and more and more and more automated. And as a result, we're going to need those kids that are playing those video games today on their phones, whatever. Those kids are going to be trained to either be dependent if we don't bring manufacturing back here in the United States of America, or leading the way if we do bring manufacturing of advanced technologies here to the United States of America, and that's only possible through President Trump's tariff plan. This is by far, I mean, it's not even close. This is by far the most important reason for the tariffs. And unfortunately, the White House has decided, they know this, by the way. It's not like I'm coming up with something new. They know this. But they also know that it's a hard sell. It's hard to, there's a learning curve there. It's hard to convince people that, hey, you know, that 12-year-old here in a decade is going to be manufacturing some incredible stuff through advanced technologies, through, again, artificial intelligence and robotics and everything, all these scary new technologies that are coming, whether we want them or not. Well, that kid sitting there mastering a game at 12 is going to be behind a computer and manufacturing incredible technologies that can be used every day by everyday Americans. That's a decade away. And it's only possible if we bring all the manufacturing, as much of it as possible, back to the United States of America. I understand why the administration has not focused on this, because the immediate question is, great, that's a decade from now. What about today? What about, you know, how am I going to pay for my higher priced whatever eggs? Not that we're importing a bunch of eggs, but you get what I'm saying. You know, the tariffs are going to affect me today and my family today. And I'm not trying to downplay that, but nobody's going to, if you start to try to pitch them on the benefits, the long-term benefits, and when I say benefits, let's call it what it is. The mitigation of an existential threat to the United States of America. That's how important it is for us to get ahead of this and to become the manufacturing hub rather than just the consumer hub. We missed the boat with semiconductors. We cannot miss the boat with these new advanced technologies that are burgeoning right now. So when we hear about, oh, you know, it's going to bring manufacturing back, great. It's going to bring, you know, increased revenue. It's going to give negotiating power to President Trump. It's going to create more jobs today. All that stuff is great. I'm not trying to downplay any of that. But if you want to know what the real benefit of the tariffs are going to be, you're going to have to wait 5 or 10 years. But when those benefits do come, Lord willing, we'll be able to look back and say, wow, praise God for Donald Trump. Praise God for those tariffs, because otherwise we'd be sunk. I'm sure I don't have to tell you this, but looking around, you're probably noticing that the economy is acting a little strange lately. Now, look, we fully and completely support and endorse President Trump's plans. His tariffs, his path forward for the economy is necessary. This isn't just a matter of, oh, you know, it's one idea, we'll give it a shot. This is required. This is something that will prevent the United States of America from becoming a footnote in history. And that's as impossible as that might seem today. It's a reality. If we do not get ahead of the economic turmoil that's coming as a result of advancements in technology, as a result of changes in the global economic system, if we don't get ahead of them, then we are not going to succeed as a nation. We are going to fail. There will be an economic collapse. Praise God that President Trump is putting forth the effort and the appropriate plan to prevent that from happening, at least in the near future. We're talking in a matter of months and years. But through it all, there is going to be turmoil. We're experiencing it today. And this is why many Americans, tons of Americans, have been strongly considering moving their retirement accounts into physical precious metals. Now, everybody and their dog has a precious metals sponsor that they use. I use one that I believe in, basically because they are straightforward, honest, and faith-driven. Go to jdrgold.com. That is jdrgold.com. And learn how to do this right. It's tax-free. You can do a rollover or a transfer from current or previous retirement accounts. Get into a gold IRA that is done right. Not all gold IRAs are the same. There's the gap between a bad one and a good one is so huge that I would have had no idea had I not been in this industry for the last 3 years, learning and then learning some more. And based upon the research that I've done, your best bet is to go to jdrgold.com. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not telling you, go buy gold. But if you are considering it, if you're considering getting protecting your wealth and your retirement, your life's savings through physical precious metals, then jdrgold.com is the way to do that. Give it a visit today. Fill out the form. Let's take it from there. Batya Ungar-Sargon explains why Wall Street hates Trump's tariffs. They really do. We're seeing Wall Street essentially shorting the market against Trump's tariffs. And this is something that's going to continue up until the point to where they realize that it's just not going to work and Wall Street will eventually recover. In the meantime, might not be a bad idea to look at alternatives. But let's first go to Batya Ungar-Sargon.
I think these tariffs are incredible. They do so much for this country. First of all, there's the issue of national security. How can you be a sovereign nation if you are relying on your greatest enemy for pharmaceuticals, for steel, for aluminum, for lumber, for the very ships that you will need to fight them, right? It's absurd. Obviously, we need to have a base in manufacturing for our national security, but it goes so much deeper than that, Trace. We have already seen this president use these tariffs to get Mexico to control its southern border. I mean, hello, the most obvious thing in the world. We got them to stop allowing the free flow of fentanyl into this country, which murders 100,000 Americans every year. But most importantly, Trace, this president is waging class warfare on behalf of the American working class. These are the very people who have been abused and fleeced and humiliated and destroyed by an international economic order in which the American middle class is asked to bear the burden of the global elites who have gotten rich off of all of this free trade at our expense. You know, if tariffs are so terrible, how come all of these countries have tariffs on us? It's utterly, utterly absurd. What Trump is doing is reversing the trend in which we took a country built on a stable middle class, built on manufacturing, and we destroyed it with an upward funnel of wealth to the elites. And Trace, this is why Wall Street is going crazy. Wall Street is trying to short President Trump's agenda because they cannot stand that he has taken the spigot, which was turning up to the elites, and pointed it back down to the hardest working Americans, the backbone of this country.
And that pretty much says it all. Batya Ungar-Sargon, thank you for coming on. Great stuff. We appreciate it.
100%. She's absolutely correct on every count. But I like the focus there on turning the spigot in the other direction. Look, I'm a capitalist. I'm not against wealth. I'm not against the wealthy. Okay, but there is predatory capitalism and crony capitalism that are very, very negative. This is when they take advantage, they being the rich, such as members of Wall Street, and they try to make money off of other people's suffering. It's one thing to have a great business and build and grow and advance and hire workers and supply incredible products or services. It's another thing to simply play along with the sentiment and try to make a buck while people are hurting as a result. They're going to try to drive the stock market down. So one of the takeaways, I'm not a financial advisor, but to me, I personally have zero faith in the stock market right now. And that's for the foreseeable future. It would behoove many Americans to consider moving to the financial higher ground of physical precious metals. And the easiest way to do that is by going to jdrgold.com. Takeaway number 2. She's talking about them shorting, Wall Street shorting the stock market against President Trump in a way that's designed to either pressure him or to make money or both. This is when I'm talking about predatory capitalism, this is it. They're going to try to do harm to you and me, and as a result, be able to point the finger and blame Trump for it. Okay, they're trying to say, hey, look, we're just playing the market. This is all Trump's fault. When in reality, they know that they are driving the sentiment that's supposed to be driving the markets lower so that they can then cash in at the end. This is what they're trying to do, and it's ugly and it's disgusting. But the only thing we can do about it is to not listen to the naysayers, not listen to the talking heads that are out there trying to say, oh my gosh, this is so bad. This is all Trump's fault. I'm not one. I'm not going to sit here and say there are no valid reasons to oppose President Trump's tariffs, at least some of them. But I'm not going to do it because I believe and trust in his agenda. I believe and trust in his strategy. I have no reason to back out now. And I would recommend to you, my awesome and amazing readers, listeners, viewers, to do the same. Just hang in there. Hang in there, because it is going to get better in the long run. And I don't think the long run is, we're not talking years or decades down the line before we start seeing the tremendous advantages. I think it's going to come in a matter of days. But we'll see. At least weeks, maybe days, but I think in a matter of weeks we are going to start seeing a reversal, and this is where those who are trying to cash in and harm Americans as a result, these predatory capitalists, they're going to learn that they picked the wrong side on this one. And then number 3, the big takeaway here is that any attempt to crash the stock market, it can happen. Okay, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, don't worry, the stock market's not going to crash. It could crash. We could be in for a short-term but extremely damaging financial crisis ahead. So now's the time to prepare. Now's the time to consider alternatives. Cash, I don't care. Whatever it is that you feel is the best way to handle your money. Again, I'm not trying to give financial advice here. I'm just saying that it is possible. Anybody who says that, oh, there's no chance that the stock market will crash as a result, they're either stupid or lying. Okay, sucking on that hopium pipe, I guess, because it is possible. We cannot underestimate, number 1, the power, number 2, the evil of the combination of Wall Street and the globalist elite cabal that are vehemently opposed to President Trump and the United States of America on a level playing field with the rest of the world. Like she said, if tariffs are so bad, why does every other country tariff us so much? Why are we the only ones that cannot take advantage of it? The answer to that, of course, is because we just never have. And the status quo is what these predatory capitalists and globalist cabalists, this is what they want. They want the status quo so they could keep doing what they're doing, keep screwing over the American people, and keep taking advantage of awful fiscal policies by the United States of America. That's changing. Praise God for that, and praise God for President Donald Trump. Again, apologies for today being probably the shortest show I've ever done. I used to do 30-minute shows for Worldview Tube, and I remember at the time, like, I would give my producer 15 different things, and at about the 28-minute mark, when he's beeping into my ear, 28-minute mark, I've gotten to 1 or 2 or maybe 3 of those 15 things that I wanted to talk about. Yes, I can be verbose. But with that said, I hate doing these super short shows, but it was out of necessity. If you missed in the beginning, the reason we missed the first 2 shows, or the Tuesday and Wednesday show this week, is because we are in the process of working with a couple of different show networks out there, and we're going to be moving this show onto those networks. Now, again, wherever you're watching it, if you're watching on YouTube, Rumble, X, Facebook, I know there are still some people that watch me on Facebook. Wherever you're watching it, Getter, BitChute, nothing changes. You're still going to be able to watch exactly where you're watching now. So be sure to subscribe if you have not. I'm just going to be expanding to one of these 2 networks and seeing what we can do, seeing what kind of show we can put together for each of them. With that said, this short show is over. Lord willing, I will be back very soon with another episode, and hopefully a much longer one in the near future. But in the meantime, you all stay strong, stay safe, and God bless.